This year's World Population Day, themed Embracing the Power of Inclusive Data Towards a Resilient and Equitable Future for All, underscores the critical role of inclusive data in fostering sustainable development and ensuring that every Nigerian has access to the resources and opportunities they need to thrive. To discuss this, we have joining us on the news at 7, Dr. Oyetunde Olasunboye, the Health Management Information System Officer in Osun State. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
Yeah, good evening and welcome the viewers.
Nice to have you on board.
Thank you.
This year's World Population Day talks about the need for inclusive data for sustainable development. How do you think this can be ensured?
Well, life itself is data. This year, when we talk about inclusive data, means data from all and for all. That is, none is excluded, no ethnic, no age, no sex, no gender is excluded from data. Data forms the foundation, is a major foundation for planning. So when we have 40 data, then there will be 40 planning.
Yeah.
So at the, even when we talk about history is just data. Just getting, you cannot plan for the future. When you don't know, you cannot plan for tomorrow. When you don't know where you were yesterday and where you are today. So when we talk about inclusive data, means data from all, that include everywhere, every source of it, excluding no one from this particular data. That's when we talk about data being inclusive, that is reflective of what is happening. Because data is useful when it is of a good quality, good quantity, and is available for use per time.
Now, 30 years ago, the International Conference on Population Development recognized the importance of placing people at the center of development, which led to significant advancement in reproductive health care, reductions in maternal mortality, and improvements in gender equality. How do you think Nigeria can achieve a healthy population?
Well, healthy population actually starts with you knowing what the population is itself. You cannot plan for a population that you don't know the number. You don't know how many, for example, you're talking about reproductive health. How many women do we have? What is their, what is their disaggregation in terms of women of reproductive age group? How many adolescents do we have? So all these forms the reason why you have to have a quality data to be able to plan. You cannot plan when data is not, when data is not available. What we, in this part of the world, we have not gotten to the level whereby many or all our decision is data driven. Every decision that has to do with health, education, every sector of life must be data driven. Every sector must be data driven. You just don't wake up one day and say you want to do this. What's the data that support that you have to do this? So development is only possible when data is available to actually guide decisions to be made, plans to be implemented. Even the planning itself must be data driven, implementation must be data driven, and even the monitoring of of the development must be data driven. That's why it's very important. That's why Nigeria must actually look back and check. Because last time we conducted census was very fast, so we don't even know how many we have. We're only using estimated figures. So once our figure is estimated, that means everything that we are doing will be estimated. You only assume that this is the number of women that you have to plan for. That may not be the number of women. And for example, let me give you an illustration. If you have a population of 100,000 women, and your data is telling you only have 30,000 women, that means you only plan for the 30,000, excluding 70,000 women. And that's what the topic for this year is talking about, inclusive data. That means you have excluded about 70,000 from your planning. 70,000 women they've already been excluded from your planning, from your implementation, from the benefit that should come from that particular intervention. So every of our intervention must be data driven. You must ask, where are we? And that question will come from data. Data is the foundation of planning, is the foundation of any development. You have to know where you are for you to plan well.
Now, there are concerns that Nigeria is faced with a challenge or significant challenges linked to rapid population growth. However, some still believe that a large population is a blessing rather than a challenge. Do you agree?
Well, the larger population or the population being very high would be a blessing if it is properly utilized. For example, you have a family.
Yeah.
The income of the father and the mother total is about 100,000, and they have 7 kids to feed. So can we say that 7 is a blessing? Some of them will turn out to be thugs, some of them will turn out to be touts, because the family's income cannot take care of them. So that we cannot call that a blessing. So the population is only a blessing. High population is only a blessing when the resources are available and you are able to distribute the resources equitably.
Yeah.
And you are able to take decisions that is data driven. So that's when we have, but now the population of Nigeria is about 200 million already, and we have meager resources. So that's to say it's a blessing. Well, we have to think twice and look at it. Do we have the resources to cater for all this? Okay, yeah. That's why we need data. What's even our real figure? What's the figure of the population of Nigerians? How many men? How many women? How many are of reproductive age group? How many do we plan for? How many men do we plan for? How many women do we plan for? How many children do we plan for?
Last year, Doctor, we're supposed to have the census exercise in the country, but it was postponed. And the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari said it is the administration of Bola Tinubu that would conduct the census. But as it is now, we are not hearing anything about the census anymore. Do you think it's something this administration should actually prioritize if we really want a growth in our nation?
If we want growth, if we want development, data is key. We must know how many we have. That's very important.
So census should be a priority for this administration?
It's at every level. Even as a state, you must know how many people are you planning for.
Okay.
For example, when we talk about per capita, we're talking about per head. How much are we spending on health per head? So when you don't even know that number of heads,
yeah.
So what are we talking about? So we've been using estimated for several decades now. 2006 was the last one. Yeah. So that's telling us that we have a long way to go. Census will give us, okay, this is the number of people that we have. This is the number of women, number of men. There's always this controversy. We have more men than women. We have more women than men. We don't even know. So the way you plan the women's health and men's health are different. Okay, so planning for them is, planning for men's health and women's health must be data driven. How many women are you planning for? For any economy to achieve growth, to achieve development, to achieve equity, for us to have a resilient health system, you must know how many people you are planning for. Okay. How many people? When we talk about doctor-patient ratio, how many doctor-client ratio or doctor-patient ratio, you must know how many. What is the number of potential patients that we're talking about? You don't even. So everything starts with how many are we? How many doctors do we have? How many teachers do we have? Okay. How many farmland do we have that is arable? It's cut across all sectors. There's not about even health alone. But we're only talking about health because we have to do something. Something must be done. That's why family planning now comes to play. Yeah. That's why we are preaching family planning, because let's plan. Okay, for us to manage the resources that we have, so we can get the best out of it. Then we must know that, okay, this is the way forward. Since we have our population is growing, okay, at a very alarming rate, and the resources are not growing to measure up with it. So we are heading for a very serious crisis, and it's already we are already facing it.
I was just about to ask you the importance of family planning and childbirth spacing. There have been a lot of discussions around it. So, a lot of people still are of the opinion that I should not, disturb or stop God's work, in court now. So they want to know what will be the importance of me having family planning or spacing my children, especially, for families and also for the country, Nigeria.
Yes, family planning is not just about stopping childbirth. It's about every family sitting down and say, okay, what are the resources we have? So can we cater for this number of children? At least for now. Okay. So if it is, for example, now, if your resources can take care of 2, okay, and they are well spaced, even yourself, you have rest. And giving birth to 7, not spaced. Every 1 year you are in the hospital, okay? And that is a lot on the father, on the mother, on the resource of the family. Okay, so that's why we are saying, okay, looking at the resources of every individual family, okay, can we come to a round table and say, okay, the father and the mother come together, what's the resource of the family? Now, if the resource of the father and the mother can only take care of 2, why go for 4? Why go for 5? Why go for 6? And there are several methods that can help us. Science has already advanced to that extent that we have variety of methods to uptake. And when you are set, for example, now you can't predict. Whenever you are set, when the resources of the family grow up, okay, you can still go back because there are some that it's not. We only have we have temporary method and permanent method. So many go for temporary method. So if you are still fine after some years and you find out resources are now fine, okay, you can still go back. Family planning helps you to plan. That's why it's called family planning. It helps you to plan. Plan your family for growth, for development, so you can also be happy with your children. The father can be happy, the mother can be happy, the children can be happy in the family, so that we will not groom children that will begin to cause their parents because they can't take care of them.
All right. So, how can Nigeria, talking about census and data collection now, how can Nigeria and Osun State ensure inclusive, equitable, and transparent data collection processes for the benefit of citizens?
Yes, that will, the first thing in data is the first question we have to ask in data management is, what kind of data do we need? Okay, we have quite a number of pockets of data collection system, especially in the health service, and the health system, education system, agriculture system. They have pockets of it in various sectors and segments of the state. But for us to actually make it wholesome, that means I must also say that data management is it's costly, but we can make it cost effective. But the question we have to ask is, what are data that we need? Okay, how do we collect this particular data? From whom do we get it? For us to make it inclusive, that means you cannot. Many a time we depend so much on survey in this part of the world because survey is periodic. Okay, and survey is just a sample of the population. They now extrapolate to other because okay, this is from this particular figure. These are our findings. Then we now extrapolate that, okay, that means the generality of the population is this. But if you have an inclusive data that is collected routinely, okay, that's collected routinely in various in various sectors of the economy, okay, health, education, women affairs, different sectors of the economy, we will be able to use the data to plan.
All right.
Because that's very important. That's for us to get this right, and we have to, okay, what kind of data do we need? Okay, then there must be data demand. Okay, so that means the policymakers must demand, before we make this particular policy, can we have data? Okay, do we have data? If we don't have data, then what do we do? How do we get this data on? Every policy must be data-driven. Plan must be data-driven. Policy must be data-driven. Even the laws of the land must be data-driven. You can't just make laws without knowing, okay, now why are you making the law? For the benefit of the people? Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what's the data? If you have a deficiency in a particular sector, you have to ask, what's the data? Is data suggestive of this before we make this particular law? Once we get it right at the level of data demand, data use, then we can now begin to tell ourselves, okay, this is how we are going to collect, because there is demand for this data now. Okay, this is how we are going to collect it. But once data is not being demanded, even when you have a repository of data and it's not being used, even the collectors get nobody's accountable, because they feel that, okay, we are just collecting it, we're just keeping it in the shelves, nobody's using it. But once we know that they will be able to use it, this data will be used, then everybody will know that, okay, we have to be accountable, and we have to make sure that this an inclusive data that involves everyone, every gender, age, sex, ethnicity, race must all be included. Why I'm trying to collect the data.
So, in a nutshell, data is essential for any growing economy or
growing
life. Country. Data is life. I like that. Thank you so much, Dr. Olasunboye Oyetunde, for your time this evening on News at 7. All right, we have been speaking to Dr. Olasunboye Oyetunde, the Health Management Information System Officer in Osun State.